The probate process in Texas. Wondering what that's all about? Sit back and relax, grab a glass of iced tea. Y'all know me, just welcome. Welcome back. Of course, my name's David Fleming. Today I've got Matt and James Davidson from the Davidson Law Group. I actually worked with Matt. Cindy and I had the hard situation of going through a probate with Cindy's mom, my mama C. And good news was, she graduated and got to go home with the Lord. But Matt took what a very difficult situation and made it easy. By the end of it, I had a new friend, and I knew I had somebody that was there to take care of me and serve me. What I want to do is give people information so that they don't have to react out of a spirit of fear. Everybody that I bring on, nobody's going to talk above your head. Nobody's going to talk down to you. We are here to talk to you because we care for you. And the Lord's blessed me to have a plethora. You use a big word. That's a $12 word. That's one of y'all's words right there. A plethora of people that the Lord has blessed me with. What I am here to do is give you information so that if you're going through something, or if you have a family member that's going through something, have a conversation so you can at least have the facts. Because if you have the facts, it's not as scary, is it? No. And if you have the facts with some people that actually care about you and want to educate you and help you through the process, then you're just sitting around with friends and having a conversation. First, we're going to go to Texas estate law and then the probate process.
Yeah, I don't mind starting on it.
Okay. Thanks, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. And, having a will, which is what the baseline of this topic is the foundational component of having an estate plan in Texas. Basically, if you have a will, then you put yourself in control over how your assets are distributed once you pass away. And if you have minor children, that's an even higher level of concern, because obviously minors can't just inherit a bunch of money, life insurance and retirement plans and stuff like that. So having a will is the minimum that people should have in Texas. And the probate process, it takes a lot of heat. People talk about how bad it is. There are components of it, and for certain people that it's really kind of like how you, David, were kind of dreading the process. It's not the most fun thing in the world, but I will say that Texas is not the worst state for it. There's other states out there that have just a terrible process. California is one of them. In a second, we'll talk about reasons why you might want to even avoid probate in Texas. But probate in Texas, if you have a will, is just the process of the judge approving the will, proving the person who's appointed executor to be able to serve as executor, and then overseeing the process of distributing the assets. That's the baseline aspect of it. Also dealing with any debts that might be in the estate.
On the probate side, I do have a couple of questions. Before we go into the avoiding probate, because now we're going to be talking about trust, but help us understand why it takes so long, because a lot of times it's a year, and the average, Joe Schmo doesn't understand any of that. Help us understand the process of why does it take so long to go through probate? That's probably a good question that people might have.
Yeah, so let's walk through that in a couple of different scenarios. One of the first assumptions that people make is that if you have a will, then everything just goes to the people in the will instantaneously, which that's not true. As I mentioned before, and I'll go into more details, the will has to be approved as a valid will in Texas. And the person appointed as executor has to be approved under the law, which a lot of people don't realize that. If you have a felony, or you've ever been found incompetent by a court, then you can't serve as an executor. And also a crime of moral turpitude most of the time too, which is even a misdemeanor theft or some sort of dishonesty crime. So all of those hoops have to be jumped through. But as far as the time is concerned, if somebody dies and then they come and they hire us, we have to file an application to the court to have the will approved and to have the executor appointed. And the first thing that the court's going to do is they're going to give notice basically to the world, just simply put, that this person's died. And if you believe that you would be an heir to this person, then you need to come forward. And that's your notice, that's your citation. And so there's a 10-day waiting period after you file that application before any more work can be done. And so that's the first place, is you have to wait that time period. And so then if you have a will and you need before the judge. And I can tell you in some of the bigger counties, including Tarrant County, there's a wait. Now they're doing some great things in Tarrant County to ease this up. You know, they're having associate judges hear cases, and it's actually a great time to just give just a props to the Tarrant County courts and the way they're handling this COVID thing.
Mm.
They're doing Zoom hearings. I have a phone hearing for Dallas County next week. I think that they're really stepping up and handling these things. But in normal circumstances, there's a waiting period before you can get into court, just simply because of backup. There's a line. So you have your statutory period for somebody to come forward. Then you have your waiting period for getting into court. And then if there's any issues, like for instance, if there is an executor named who has a felony or has a theft charge on their record, or doesn't live in Texas, there's a whole bunch of hoops you have to jump through. You can still serve as executor, but you have to do some things if you don't live in Texas and you're named as executor. So you have to make sure all those ducks are in a row. And then you get before the judge, and if there's any flaws in the will, right? This is a great time to mention, don't do an internet will. There's always flaws. And maybe I should say do, because they keep us in business having to jump through those hoops and fix those wills all the time. But if you want things to be easy and smooth, don't do an internet will. Just as David said, grow up and go see an attorney. Don't try to penny pinch, because you're just going to cost your family on the back end. So if there are any flaws in the will, having to jump through those hoops and fix those in front of the judge. And so all of that takes time. Sometimes those are the reasons why it can take months and months to even get in front of the judge. If you're having to fix the flaws in the will, if there's certain types of flaws, sometimes you have to bring in other witnesses that knew the people, or you have to bring in the witnesses who actually saw the will signing. I actually have one right now where it was a deathbed will signing in a hospital. And they literally just went out into the halls and they pulled in different people to be the witness, people that did not know this lady. And so this lady passed, and we're trying to probate this will, and there were a bunch of flaws with the will, because this was something that they printed offline. So we needed the witnesses to come and testify. Well, their addresses were kind of scribbled on there. I could barely read them. I couldn't find these people. They had moved. One lady lived way out in East Texas, out towards James, but out in the country. So if there are flaws and you can't find your witnesses, then you really have to get into, fixing mode. Where basically now I'm having to bring in a bunch of people to testify about the lady's signature, handwriting witnesses. Yeah. So all that to say, if there are any flaws, those are what can keep us out of court. And so then once we get into court, and we get before the judge and we have all of that stuff fixed, if there's not certain language within the will to allow for an independent administration, then that means that the judge has to create all of these hurdles for us so that the judge can approve every little decision that's made going forward. That means that the executor can't do anything without getting the judge's approval, without getting in front of the judge with the lawyer. So if there is language in there allowing for independent administration, then the executor will have less oversight from the court, which is good. But if the language isn't in there, then the judge is going to have to create a dependent administration, meaning that they have to get approval for everything. Another piece that can take time is in Texas, the default is that the executor has to get a bond. Yes, like a bond, like you think of, like a bail bond from a bondsman in the amount of the estate. And this is to protect the judge if the executor takes all the money and runs off to Mexico. Right? Then there'll be a bond in the amount of the estate so that the beneficiaries aren't robbed of their inheritance. But that is costly and time consuming. So a good will in Texas, a well-drafted will actually allow the executor to serve without bond, so that you don't have to do this laborious process that takes time and money. If you're going to name an executor, hopefully you trust them to not go off the reservation.
Mhm.
And so you want to save your estate as much money as possible by not requiring a bond. So I just walked you through what happens when we up to the point of going to court. That's not even talking about what happens after, right? And that's with a will. That's not even without, there are so many more hoops to jump through if you don't have a will.
I'm going to talk right to the people again.
Yeah.
If you're like me, man, and here's the nice thing, Matt's talking right to us, and he's trying to put it in as layman's terms as he possibly can, real stories to make it easy. And if you're like me, you're like, whoa, that's too much. And it is, correct?
Yeah.
But think about this. If you do something online, you don't know what you don't know. And this is what I learned from going through this with Matt. If it's not written down, you're in trouble. And we all know, we've all had people that have passed. Man, people lose their ever-living mind when it comes to money. People are not going to get along. If you don't have it specifically spelled out exactly what you want to happen with your legacy, then there's no telling what's going to happen with that money. It might go to the wrong hands, but I think that the common thread here is get a professional involved. Make sure there's somebody that you trust, but spend a little extra money, because if not, you're going to spend a whole lot of money after you're gone. And I guarantee you, if you're watching this video, because we're all kind of like-minded, you care about your responsibility to do with what the Lord gave you. And I'm not going to preach at you. I'm right there with you. I didn't have a will until I was 49. I didn't. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't need to happen. And especially if you have assets. If you eat burgers all the time and you go to McDonald's, what's going to happen to you? But if you start eating salads and you start being responsible with your body, then what's going to happen? Everything's going to function better. This is no different than your money, and no different than planning. It needs to happen. You know it needs to happen. Probably it hadn't happened because it's not like you don't have the money. Come on, people. We're in our mid-40s. Everybody that's watching this is probably at least in their late 30s to mid-40s. It's not that you don't have however much money that they're going to charge it. It's that you don't trust them. You don't trust them. You don't trust yourself. You just don't want to deal with it. What's your average initial session, right? How long does that last, guys? When you're talking about an hour and a half. Who doesn't have an hour and a half? I'm sure they'll do a Zoom meeting. Yep. I mean, that's going to be the wave of the future now. That's just kind of where we're at.
Well, it's
go ahead.
Free. We do a consultation.
Yeah, there you go. Free consultation. That didn't even cost you anything. It cost you time.
Right.
And if y'all know me, and you do, I don't put my name on a lot of people, just like these people. And just like you don't put your name on a lot of people because you only got one name. I put my name on these people unequivocally. They're good people. They'll take good care of you. Yeah, I tell you what, it's just a really service of what y'all are doing for people. And one of the main reasons, I'm an analytics guy. I was looking at the numbers just on the sheer research, people typing in probate or trying to do it without a will, trying to do it without a lawyer. There's a lot of stuff going on right now and people are scared. Mm-hmm. So if you would, each one of you take just a moment, because I'm sure you talk to probably 60% more people on the phone than actually come in. I would imagine. Maybe I'm wrong on that number, but I would imagine a lot of people call and then people don't actually follow through. Talk directly to them, because there's a common thread, I'm sure, between everybody. Talk to those people. If you could have three things, old 1 Minute Manager, I don't know if you've read that book or not, great book, but 1 Minute Manager says people can't put more than 3 things on their plate at one time. If y'all could just if you could talk to them about 3 things with from what y'all are seeing that's different than what people are going through, or maybe it's the same thing, it's just more heightened, but just the 3 things that are on your heart that you would like to help people with, and then I'll shut up. Either one. James, go first.
I'll just jump right in here. A lot of people come in and they sit down with us and we have a conversation. We talk about planning, we make some recommendations. And then at the end of that conversation, they say, whew, man, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. And so a lot of people have misconceptions about what it, number one, means to meet with an attorney, but 2, to talk about estate planning. It's not fun to talk about, But at the end of the day, once you have this conversation, you have all of your questions answered, and you have a plan in place, you have peace of mind. Okay? And there's no substitute for that. Okay. And so what I would say is, don't let the process discourage you. I can at least speak for Matt and I, as we try to the extent that we can, be approachable and be down to earth and sit down and have a conversation with you about your family and your planning goals. We're not going to sit there and judge you or throw legal terms at you or be, otherwise abrasive. It's our job to serve you as a client and get to know you and make some really good quality recommendations as to some planning tools to accomplish your objectives. So don't let the process scare you, because it's probably not as expensive as you think. And definitely Matt and I are not, we're not mean, and we really genuinely care about people, and we like meeting with clients and planning for their goals.
Matt?
Yeah, I think in this time, people are seeing their mortality differently, regardless of how you feel about everything that's going on. I think that some people are really fearful. I would discourage you from being fearful, but I do think that it's smart to take what's happening and learn lessons from it. Some of those lessons are, we're not going to live forever. These crazy out of the blue, what do they call them, black swan events do happen. We live kind of in a bubble in the United States where we think these things won't happen to us, but they do. And we need to have a plan, not just for whenever we pass away, but there's also just been a really high need for powers of attorney, right? People that are in the hospital on a ventilator with COVID-19 don't have a power of attorney for someone to be able to speak for them, don't have a power of attorney to be able to pay their bills at home and deal with things at home. We need to learn the lessons and take the wisdom from this, that we need a plan, because we're not going to live forever and bad things can happen to us. That's not living in fear. That's just being wise and being smart. And, especially if you fall into certain categories, like if you have minor children, you need to have a plan for who's going to have guardianship over them and take care of them if you're gone or just in the hospital and incapacitated. If you have money or life insurance, which most people, with minor children do have life insurance for their family, how are you going to dictate how that money is spent and protect them from themselves? That if you're a blended family, James mentioned some of the nightmare scenarios where people don't think about. There should be a heightened sense to get a plan in place. If you have special needs children, I could go on and on. There's all those special circumstances. Take what God has given us in this season. He can teach us lessons, right? He works all things for the good for those who are called according to his purpose. And let's take the good out of this. And I think that part of the good is people waking up and getting smart about getting a plan in place.
That's very good. Gentlemen, I can't tell you much. I appreciate y'all coming on. Oh, and by the way, they didn't ask to come on. This wasn't an advertisement for them. This was me seeing their heart saying, and really reading between the lines of, there's a lot of hurting people out there right now.
If I may, it's actually a good spot to say, all of these questions are popping up, and a lot of this crosses over with what we do. Really, the financial side and life insurance. This is just a great time to not only check in with your lawyer or come see one if you don't have one, but to really take advantage of your professionals that you have in your life. Make sure that everything's in order with your CPA and with your lender and with your real estate agent and with your banker. It's just great to have a network and a team of people like that. I just felt like that was a good spot to talk about that. You really need all those people in your life. So
well, and that's actually what I'm trying to accomplish, because if all I ever do if this real estate business is make money, I think I failed. Because I think anybody can make money in real estate. Anybody can make money in what y'all do. But to do something better with it, back, whenever I was a kid, and actually before, there was not that many lawyers in town. There definitely wasn't a lot of mechanics in town. There was a guy or two, and you knew who to trust. These days, you don't know. But one thing holds true: good people hang around good people, and I would like to build a team around my sphere of influence to where I can refer people that are there to Dave Ramsey, the heart of a teacher, right? And for biblically, the heart of a servant. That not just fiduciary, right? I'm going to use one of y'all's words, not just fiduciary as far as legal fiduciary, but the spirit of the law behind fiduciary is you really should care about the other person more than you care about yourself. And the only way we're able to do that is through the Holy Spirit, and that's a whole nother conversation. But truly, I want to build a team of people throughout different industries that are there to help, because everybody needs somebody, and it's just at different times of when they need them. And these two gentlemen, I mean, if anything, Matt can tell you about Takova's boots. Hey, I got a pair on right now. I got my ostriches on right now. I wore Justin's forever, but but these guys are they're here to help. I'm here to help. And if we never get any business from you, but we can help educate you, you know what? Glory be to the Lord for that. Because business will come and go. Friendships are what stay forever. Relationships are what stay. I hope today, people, that you got something out of this, that if not for you, but for you in the future, or for someone that you love, because this, one way or the other, this is going to be dealt with. This subject is going to be dealt with whether you're alive and you're able to dictate what happens, or after you're gone, and then it's going to be a mess because you didn't decide to do what you needed to do with it. And I can say that because I'm not the lawyer in the room, and I have no skin in it. I have no dog in the fight. I just wanted, I mean, you just spoke to it, James, about that peace of mind. That's the biggest thing Cindy and I walked away with whenever we walked out of there, and we got that binder, that we had a peace of mind going, we don't have to worry about it anymore. It's not that one thing that's left undone that is really one of the biggest things of what's going to happen when I'm gone, because we're all going to be gone. I'm going to transition real quick. Your Texas Legacy. What's the website again? I want to make sure I get it right.
Yep.
YourTexasLegacy.com.
That's right.
www.yourtexaslegacy.com. Matt, why don't you give them your phone number real quick?
Yeah. So in all the phone numbers will ring everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, just a couple. That's fine. Per office, one per office, I guess.
Fort Worth, since that's where you and I are, David, is 817-900-6529.
Okay. And James, where you're at?
Yeah, so it's 903-525-6500.
Very good. Hey guys, I can't, and hold on, because I want to talk with y'all after this is over. But once again, people, I sure hope you got something out of this. For YouTube, hold on, I'm going to switch to me. Y'all bear with me. See, I told you I didn't know what I was doing.
No, this is cool, though.
All right. Hey, it's me. So let's go this way. Right down here, you're going to hit the subscribe button. If you like what you're seeing, hit the subscribe button so you can get these videos. Hit the bell so you know whenever new stuff comes out. People, we love you. And before I end, you've got to understand two things. You know it's true. Number one, God loves you. Number two, you know I do it as well. The first one will carry you through everything. I sure hope y'all have a blessed day. Thank you for spending time with me. If you like this, right, give it a thumbs up. Send me a comment. Write me a comment. Give me a question. I can reach out to these guys for you. I do hope that you reach out to them and visit with them. Just at least have a conversation, because everybody's got some type of question. All right. Till next time, people, y'all have a good day. All right. Bye-bye.